Welcome back to the Hive Doctor, your beekeeping mentor. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm a big fan of always learning more about honeybees and beekeeping so that I can improve on my methods and practices as a beekeeper. And though you can only learn so much from books, I have 2 book recommendations for you today that every beekeeper should read and have a part of their beekeeping library. So stick around. Today we have 2 special guests. They are 2 Dadant publications. One is titled American Honey Plants by Frank C. Pellet, and the other is Honey in the Comb by Eugene Killion. We're going to go over Honey in the Comb first. This is a really thin book. It's an amazing read, and the concepts in this took my beekeeping game to the next level in 2 different ways. One, to learn how to make quality comb honey, and I'm not just talking about the stuff that you and I see in the store most of the time. I'm talking about fully capped, white, pristine looking comb. It's an art, it's a lost art, and this book brings it back to life. And not just that, but they do it through the second thing I love about this book, is that it introduces equipment management in a way that most of us haven't considered. It's where I got my deeper bottom board idea from, using and incorporating slatted racks. What's amazing about this book is it teaches you how to utilize special honey supers just for making comb honey. And it's a ton of fun. And it even goes through the process of how to manipulate the hive in such a way that it works with the bees, but also helps the beekeeper in a higher quality comb honey and higher yields of honey. Now, of course, this book was, I don't know, from the 50s or so, and you see these guys standing here on the inner cover, and this is one single hive. This is nothing but comb honey supers, and they have figured out a way to seriously make some honey. Now, granted, that was in the Midwestern states where sweet clover is grown, so they've got acres and acres and acres of sweet clover, and of course the bees could work that all day long, and I'm assuming that crop probably blooms for at least a month. So it's easier to make larger quantities of honey when you've got that much crop going on, that much forage available for your bees. But this book goes over things like, and I'm going to read the table of contents to you a little bit to give you an idea, comb honey in general, locations of putting your bees, the equipment that you use, the specialized equipment, and how to use it, preparing the super, and even going over round section honeycomb, keeping records on each hive so that you know from year to year what your honey yields are. So you've got that comparison from last year that you can always compare to. Colony management in the spring, clipping queens, which I'm not really a fan of. I don't see a point to that. Cutting down for the honey flow, and what that means is minimizing the space that your hive has to store honey. When you cut a hive down, it means you're minimizing that area that they have to work and getting them ready for the honey flow. You want to almost create a swarming tendency in them and then control that in such a way to where it utilizes the honey flow and the colony efficiency to make the most amount of honey and a high quality looking comb honey as well. Talks about queen rearing. If that's something that interests you, he totally goes over that. Even shows you how to make your own queen cups out of beeswax. I've done that. It is a very fun project to do, especially when you are able to graft into your own queen cups and then see queens raised from that. And there's a really satisfying feeling involved with that. It also goes over how to super a hive, and that means by adding honey supers. When you add honey supers to a beehive, it's called supering. Talks about removing the crop, when it's going to be ripe for harvest, preparing the comb honey for market, preparing comb honey for competition. These guys apparently have won tons of competitions. In the back of the book here, you can see this dude with his comb honey and his little trophy here, trophy there. First premium national honey show ribbon. I think they even shipped to France, the book says. And then how to clean your equipment and get it ready for the next time. This book, like I said, changed my beekeeping game because it gave me hope that there was another way of doing beekeeping other than the way that I was taught. And so this is a must-have for every beekeeper's shelf. The second book is probably my ultimate all-time favorite beekeeping book ever. If I had to pick just one to take to a deserted island and read, I don't know why I would be on a deserted island reading a book. This is American Honey Plants by Frank C. Pellet. And basically what the book is it goes over all 50 states and the major and minor honey sources available in each of those. And even in some of those states, it'll break it down into individual regions. So to give you an example, major honey sources are the honey sources that create a nectar and a honey flow. In other words, what beekeepers are able to come along and harvest a crop from. Minor sources of nectar are those that are enough to keep incoming food for the hive, keep them alive, but not enough to make a honey crop off of because there's not enough nectar coming in to create a surplus. And beekeepers only harvest honey when there's a surplus of honey. In other words, more than that hive actually needs. And honeybees are the only bee, as far as I've read, that collect a surplus of honey. And one great thing about this book is that it goes in alphabetical order, starting with A, starts with the acacia plant, and it has some pictures, quite a few pictures actually, of honey plants, but not every one that it mentions. And as you go through, you can either look up the plant in alphabetical order by what it starts with, or the state that you're in. For example, Georgia, where I'm located, E, F, G. So right here we've got on 3 pages, it covers Georgia. And Georgia has several different climates, so I've got to actually break this down and look at the climate where I am to apply what this book is saying to my area. So specifically, I'm in the northeast Georgia mountains, and this book breaks Georgia down into those different areas. Mine, for example, says in March we have the peach, the apple, which continues into April, the mock orange or evergreen wild cherry, huckleberry, strawberry, and it goes on to name a few more. The willow, wild cherry, hawthorn, blackberries, locust, holly, and tulip tree. Now, in this area, the tulip poplar is a big-time honey maker. The big thing in my area that is most popular as far as honey sources is the sourwood tree, which creates, of course, sourwood honey. And it's highly sought after. This is the only part of the U.S. that makes it. Technically, it's the tri-state area between eastern Tennessee, western North Carolina, and North Georgia. But the counties that I'm in here and Georgia have it more prolifically because it's a lot less developed, a lot less trees have been cut down. So we've got a ton of sourwood trees, and sourwood is an amazing honey. So if you ever get a chance to try that, do it. But the reason that this book is so amazing is because it's something that you can apply to your area and learn the difference between major and minor nectar sources so that you can learn to identify them where you live and know when to expect those sources to bloom in your area so that you can begin to anticipate as a beginner beekeeper when your honey flows are. You may not know even what a honey flow is yet, or when they are, or how many you have in your area throughout the year. Generally, the warmer climates are going to have more honey flows than the colder climates. Where I live, I've only got 2. There is a third, but it's not very reliable, so I don't even count it. And it's considered goldenrod and aster, which this book covers both of those plants, so that's something more that you could learn about. Goldenrod is quite widespread throughout the U.S. But one thing that I feel strongly about that's going to help you with your beekeeping game is learning about the plants that offer sources of pollen and nectar for your honeybees. And as you learn to begin to observe those plants and when they bloom and how long they bloom and watching your bees work them, you'll begin to learn how to anticipate the seasons from year to year. It will also give you the confidence that you know that your bees have something to eat and what it's coming from, so that you don't have to freak out wondering, should I feed my bees? Should I feed my bees? Should I stop feeding my bees? I don't know. When you learn what Mother Nature is feeding your bees and when, it's a big relief. And it also gives you the confidence to know that you're learning what's going on a little bit at a time. And as you learn a plant really well, you'll never have to learn it again. You'll start to recognize it everywhere. And every time you do, it reinforces your knowledge of that. This is also a great way to find what honey varieties are popular in your area. Just about every area of the US has its own version of wildflower. Whatever wildflowers are growing in your area at the time of year that it's made, that's going to be unique to you. But also these other, what I consider rare honeys, like sourwood or fireweed honey from Alaska, or Tupelo from northern Florida, southern Georgia. These honeys are going to be unique, and this book might help you find that you have a unique honey that your area produces and you didn't even know about it. Both of these books will be linked in the description below. And just to give you an idea about me, I don't have a lot of beekeeping books. I'm very picky and particular about the beekeeping books that I do have. They've got to really add to my beekeeping experience and knowledge in order for me to consider them worth it to have on my shelf. I don't keep anything that I don't need. So my total beekeeping book collection is probably less than 10, right around that area. That doesn't mean that there are not other amazing books out there. I haven't read them all, and I don't plan to. But when I come across one that's worth it, I keep it, and then I let you guys know about it. If you already have one of these 2 books, let me know in the comments below. Drop me one of these, subscribe to the channel, and tell your friends about it. I have more beekeeping book recommendations coming in the future, so until then, I'll see you in the next video.